Welcome to the Combot Collective.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Robot Combat Tonight, presented to you by the Combot Collective with our lucky 14th episode. I am your host, as always, Sterling Brown, aka Sterling TXTG on Instagram, here to bring you everything you want to know from the world of robot combat, from the heavyweight class to the flyweight class, from Battlebots to the live circuit on this Robot Combat Tonight episode. And you know, here at RCT, we do that very well. We provide you all with everything happening in the sport, whether it be in the US, whether it be in the UK, or even Russia. If you follow TCC, you know all about that, and we'll get onto that more in the end of the episode. This is going to be a good time. 5 topics in total to talk about here on today's RCT episode. Was hoping we get some co-hosts in, but I think everybody's watching football. It's also football season. We got a lot of fun things to talk about here regardless. Battlebots, a lot of Battlebots. Battlebots Proving Ground, a certain little TV series we all know is coming up. We'll be talking about that first. We're going to be doing a big-time live event catch-up. We haven't discussed any live event results here in the past few Robot Combat Tonight episodes in terms of smaller events, not heavyweight events, just because with Battlebots Proving Ground, and Extreme Robots, it's been so busy. NHRL 2 with these larger competitions, we've been trying to cover them all, get all the details, and it's been a steady stream of competitions lately. I love to see it. Of course, we're also going to be talking about the Robot Combat Hall of Fame. Maybe a little bit late on that news, but one robot has been inducted. It's not the one we thought it was going to be. You can kind of see my new sign I put in the studio in the corner of the screen. It's been there for a couple of news episodes, but we'll really be touching in on that. And then, like I already mentioned, Battle of the Robots in Russia. We're going to be going over very briskly, very, very briskly at the end of the episode, where we usually do our TCC Top 10, talking about some of the robots that have been confirmed for Group A, happening on the 16th of September. But we'll get to all that here in just a second. As always, on the Combot Collective, on Robot Combat Tonight, we are sponsored and proudly presented by robotsruinmylife.com. They are the merchandise provider for numerous East Coast teams in the world of robot combat at both Battlebots and NHRL. We're talking about Battlebots competitors such as Ripperoni, Shredded Bro, Starchild, NHRL competitors such as Milk Tank, Blackbird, the original Shredded Bro, the original Starchild. All these robots, you can pick up their t-shirts, their stickers, their prints, their poker chips, if we're talking Battlebots, their jackets, even some fun novelty things like pins, the Ripperoni pizza box that you can put, your own pizza in, your own belongings in, maybe your own Robot Combat collectibles in. All sorts of fun trinkets and merchandise, apparel like that. They also have robotsruinmylife.com lifestyle merchandise there, like Robots Ruin My Life logo tote bags, RRML logo t-shirts, jackets, all sorts of fantastic things to wear something now that the weather is cooling down a little bit. Buy yourself a nice sweater or jacket from robotsruinmylife.com. They are the proud supporters of the Combot Collective, and we're here to support them. We're going to be doing one more giveaway at the start of the Battlebots Champions season. We're going to be giving away another shirt, our final giveaway, partnered with robotsruinmylife.com, so stay tuned for that. I am very excited for it. But now, without further ado, we got 5 topics to talk about here, guys. Hopefully this episode is not going to be as long as our last 2. Let's jump into them. Very excited here. And I've already mentioned Battlebots Champions a little bit, so we'll go ahead and keep it brisk because I'm sure you've all heard the news and other sources by now. But yes, Battlebots Champions finally has an air date, folks. Set your DVRs and ditch your Discovery Plus the subscriptions before October 5th. I've already ditched my own. Because that Thursday, Battlebots will return with 6 episodes of Champions on both Discovery Network and on a brand new streaming network in Max. Honestly, I can't believe Battlebots beat AEW to HBO Max, but that's the timeline we live in. So far, the information has been incredibly minimal, but the public already know about 5 round 1 matches, with them being Mammoth versus Free Shipping, Jackpot versus Big Dill, Terratops versus Rotator, that's going to be fun, a fire versus water battle between Gruff and Monsoon, and of course, probably the biggest of them all, Blip versus Black Dragon. That's going to be fun. If you're a supporter, though, got to make note of this. All 5 brackets, all 5 of the first 6 episodes have already been revealed to the fans. the format, who fight 2, all that fun stuff. A reason to buy a supporter there. And I don't think I'm going to be the first person to say this. Episode 2's bracket number 2, looks to be an absolute group of death, especially with Black Dragon versus Blip in the very first round. These 5 brackets are going to fill out a field of 8 who will join world champions Tantrum, Endgame, and now Sawblaze to crown a new Golden Bolt winner. When these 6 episodes kick off, expect a return to weekly Robot Combat Tonight episodes over that month-long span of time. Everyone here at the Combot Collective will be all hands on deck, breaking down one of the hottest tournaments of the year and the ranking changes that will come with it. I'm so excited. One thing that's really dawned on me lately about the Battlebots Champions tournament is we really are getting the best of both worlds with this tournament. Comedy Central days, even early ABC days, we would have a tournament. We would have, the really good robots get a bye into the later rounds, and then everyone else kind of has to prove their way through in a single elimination format. No room for mistakes, no room for error, but if you win it all, you're as deserving as anybody in this bracket. I mean, you can make a little bit of an argument for our 3 champions, Tantrum, Sawblaze, and Endgame, but even through what we've seen of them, you ain't guaranteed anything in the little tournament of champions. You still gotta win 3 fights against some very game robots. Endgame took that challenge last year, proved that Tantrum might have been a Mickey Mouse champion. The stats we've seen from the most recent Battlebots season back that up, but I guess we're gonna have to see what happens at Battlebots Champions with Tantrum and what may be its very final competition. Not getting too tangented though, this format really does remind me of Comedy Central Battlebots with the single elimination format. No mistakes have to be made. Some of the bigger names get further on into the bracket. And I like that format. I really like how you do get some crazy robots in the semifinals, the top 4, the top 8, sometimes even the top 16. But we don't really get that with modern day Battlebots. You go through the full process of the regular season and that whittles down the field pretty well, gives us the real cream of the crop entering that single elimination tournament. And I love both of these formats, obviously. I like the single elimination craziness that Battlebots Champions provides, but I have gone on record to say before that I really do believe that the format that the new seasons of Battlebots takes, it really is the peak of robot combat. It's what the sport should be, a regular season with a playoff. Obviously, I still wish the regular season selection was done a little bit differently, but that's a discussion for a whole nother video, and quite frankly, some past videos as well. I've talked about that before ad nauseum with the rest of the crew. But yes, I am very excited. A lot of great robots in this competition. A lot of robots that, with how Battlebots Champions works, we've seen it in the last 3 years now with Bounty Hunters in 2020 as well. A lot of the big names, they're siphoned out. They ain't taking part in the main competition outside of our champions. So, no Huge, no Hydra, no Ribbot, no Riptide, thank God, no Copperhead, no, now I'm missing some other big names here. No Quantum, that was one that was revealed early to us. No Quantum, that's a bit of a disappointment. But there are some other robots that we know are confirmed that are very exciting. Robots like Whiplash, like Lockjaw, like Beta, like Double Tap. We're finally going to get to see Double Tap in a proper tournament setting, along with Slammo, along with Terratop. Some really fun machines there that we really didn't get to see in a main competition setting. Finally get to show their stuff. That's really good. Very exciting. But the real question here for everybody, and I really wish I had my co-host for this one, early predictions. Who's going to be the champion of Battlebots Champions? Of course, it's kind of hard to make assumptions, make guesses, do a little bit of bracketology without the brackets being publicly confirmed for everybody. So we're going on a little bit of a gut theory here, at least for myself. I'm going to say the champion goes back to back. Honest to God, from what we've seen out of Jameson Go this year, from what we've seen out of Sawblaze technically last year, I have no reason to believe this robot isn't going to go all the way and just beat 3 more robots like it did. I mean, I listed off some other robots that could be potential champions here, and in the 3, I have Whiplash, Hypershock, and Lucky. Hypershock, Lucky, those robots fought in the playoffs, had a pretty fun fight. Sawblaze only lost to Flippers during the last tournament that we saw. Only lost to Hydra. They beat Blip, so I'm not worried about Blip. But Lucky might be able to provide Sawblaze a little bit of challenge. They have all sorts of crazy configurations. Matt Olson, of course, a fantastic driver. Whiplash and Hypershock, they also fought each other during the regular season last year. Both very solid robots. Hypershock, incredibly well driven. We already know, we've had it confirmed elsewhere, that Alex Bales, Will Bales' wife, is going to be the one driving Hypershock in this competition. So you know it's going to be very well driven. Maybe a whole dark horse here. I don't think it's going to be a dark horse. I think we should all be rating it very highly. And then Whiplash, who I really do believe is the best ranked robot going through the main bracket rounds that isn't getting a champion's bye. It's part of that tournament of death without talking about too much of the spoilers and what's on supporter and what isn't. So it's going to be taking on some very game opponents there. I mean, honestly, when you look at that bracket, when you finally get to see it, ideally in episode 2, you're going to see it and be like, oh my God, 7 of these robots could have been in the Battlebots Final 4. There's one bot out, there's one odd bot out, and I feel horrible for it because it doesn't have a chance against the rest of the field, to be brutally honest. But I digress. We'll have to see how it performs. It's also another robot that fought Whiplash here. A little bit of a teaser there. But yes, so many exciting robots. We know Scorpius is going to be there. Maybe we can finally get that Hammersaw versus Hammersaw battle in the later part of the event during that final episode of Battlebots this year. I'm so excited to see it, but yes, I am probably going to stick with Sawblaze as my pick to win the Golden Bolt. Screw it right into the giant nut. I mean, like I said, I've said it in pretty much every single RCT episode in our last 5 episodes. Jameson goes in his Carlo Bertoncini phase. We've seen him win a 3-pound championship, a heavyweight championship, a hobbyweight championship, and a sportsman championship, all in the window of 1 calendar year. And NHL Finals is in November. We're probably going to see him take even more hardware home, even more money home. And with 2024, a new championship season of Battlebots, a new Golden Bolt season, another NHRL season with even more stops, we're probably not going to miss seeing Jameson go anytime soon. I'm super stoked about it. I have him as a very, very early prediction to win Battlebots Champions. As we now move briskly on forward to sort of the heart of the episode here, if I got to be honest, it is time for a major small event catch-up going all the way back to July. We're talking about events in Brazil. We're talking about events in Canada, America, the UK. We had a German event in here, but unfortunately we never got our top 3s in time from our source. So Mad Metal Machines in Germany. Hopefully next time we can talk about y'all. We got 4 large robot combat competitions to talk to you all about. Top 5s, top 3s, all of that. Robots that are worth noting to discuss as we get closer to NHRL's final stop of the year, as we start building up for a new season of Battlebots, maybe looking forward to who may be the next upscaled heavyweight at Proving Grounds. We'll have to see here. But to kick off this catch-up, we are going to go all the way back to July, like I mentioned, to talk about RoboCore. We promoted it a little bit, but finally, we're going to discuss some results here. RoboCore had some real buzz behind it, with all the top teams from Brazil being present, plus hardcore robotics as well. But due to NHRL and Extreme Robots happening along the same time frame, like I mentioned, we missed some details on this event, but we're here still to provide you all the winners of RoboCore's 6 classes and how each team placed in terms of overall positioning, a little bit of a medal count. Our champions in each class, starting with the very small 150-gram ferryweight class, we have from a new team in Brazil, a robot named Soca Foco. And then in the 1-pound antweight class, we see the 1-pound version of AGVS's Sombra win that division. In the 3-pound class, Ogrobot's 3-pound Dark Wolf clone named Booga won that division. Uriah would take the 12-pound class with Zupacabra, essentially a 12-pound version of Black Dragon with a very wide egg beater drum, something a bit more like what Manta uses. And then in the 30-pound class, a bit of a surprise here, a Pushbot takes the division under the name Say Now, 4-wheel drive, sturdy wedge on the front, very traditional, very classic, winning the 30-pound class. You won't see them at NHRL, but you'll see them take the championship here. But finally, in our largest class at RoboCore, the only big bots division there, we talk about the 60-pound lightweight division, where we'll go over the full top 3 here. Ogrebots and Thunder Rats both tied for third with their respective signature 60-pounders, Boogalele and K-Tors. And then in second place, we have a bit of a surprise with Team Troya with their 2-wheel drive drumbot Ragnar. And then continuing on, a championship year, of course. We saw them at RoboGames. We already talked about them at RoboCar. Uriah Uriah, the second best team in all of Brazil, maybe the best team now, taking home a second gold medal here with Federal MT, making it back-to-back gold medals at RoboGames and RoboCore for Federal MT. Very impressive. So for a combined championship count, very briskly here, things line up pretty easily amongst the Brazilian teams. Crossbots leave with 1 gold, AGVS and Sombra leave with 1 gold, Ogrobots leave with 1 gold, but they do get a 3rd place honor. Imperial Bots leave with a surprise gold in the 30-pound class. But in the end, like I mentioned, there could only be one team on top of this superpower country, and that's Team Uriah, who exists with both a lightweight and hobbyweight title. Maybe they can add a heavyweight title with Battlebots Champions. I love Black Dragon. I would love to see it. But then, a few weeks later, we had even more 30-pound action in the UK with the favorite ours here at the Combot Collective, Bristol Bot Builders Brewery Bash 2023. This is a popular sportsman class 30-pound event which happens in England, coinciding with RoboNerd, and always provides a great environment while bringing in some huge challengers like this year. NHRL 2023 finalist Fracus, a robot we saw qualify just last month for the NHRL finals, making the trip across the pond to appear in this competition. And going over the top 3 in this featherweight sportsman group, talk about Fracus. Fracus managed to take 3rd here. We saw this robot start its career at Motorama, be pretty much a fodder competitor in the field, take on some full combat challengers at NHRL, and now they're getting 3rd in the UK. They defeated Pizza Time in the 3rd place playoff, and in a very rare occurrence, we would see an American robot use the pit. Very trippy. Not something you see every day. Big shades of Sewer Snake competing in the UK in 2006. 2nd place would go to a very unique robot called Timinglia. Timiglia? Who knows? It's an incredibly designed, tough as nails, inspired control bot, though. It might have had some extra weight to it, might have been wheeled. I'm not sure how its locomotion worked, to be honest. Very intriguing. Seemed like it was going to be unstoppable, though, especially in Arena, which featured a pit. Definitely huge shades of tough as nails. This robot, honestly, eye candy to look at. Very fun design, but it would lose eventually to our 1st place robot, Terabyte. Huge shades of Tectonic with this design. It had a low pressure flipper, which defeated both Fracus and Timinglia to pick up the win here. No better way to solidify yourself as a top bot than beating number 2 and number 3 on the totem pole. Brit Flipper is still dominating the UK, even in the smaller classes. Hopes there was no spinners here, of course, but Terabyte, our winner. I thought this robot was from Team Shock. I don't think it is, actually. I do apologize. Fracus 3rd, Timinglia 2nd, Terabyte 1st in the UK. But now, with sources provided by our friend of the Combot Collective, Madiator, Canada now gets into the picture as we cross the pond to finish off with 1 US and 1 Canadian event here in Kilobots. Starting here with the 150-gram class, some robots I'm honestly not too savvy with. 3rd place would go to the Void, 2nd place Derpy Doorstop, and 1st place Sacrilegious. And then in the Antweight class, they have 2 Antweight classes. We're going to focus on the Master Division here. In 3rd place, Bot Kicker. 2nd place, Mini Black Adder, coming from Red Spark Robotics, like a superpower over there in Canada. 1st place, though, would go to Metroid, a strong Canadian horizontal spinner, and a robot which has won Kilobots 1-pound championships before. It's even won one on TV. Believe it or not, 1 Kilobots aired on Canadian TV, I want to say around 2019. Metroid takes home the Masters Championship, but shouts to our rookie Antweight winner as well, Loki, who took 1st place, along with a pair of international bots reaching top 4 in that division as well. One from Michigan, one from Florida. Huge shout-outs representing the 50 states, loud and proud. Moving over to the big class here, the Beetleweight division. 3rd place would go to Excalibur, a speedy 4-wheel drive ram bot. 2nd place would go to Exercise Restraint from Team Jester, Madiator's own team, his biggest performance yet this year, taking 2nd place, silver medal honors there. And then 1st place would go to Utopia, a very compact drum bot, which has been a long-time force at Kilobots. This is the first time in 4 years, yes, 4 years, where a non-American robot has taken Canada's top 3-pound championship. I'm sure all of my Canucks and Hoosiers up there are celebrating big time, going to Tim Hortons. A lot of reason to be proud there. But finally, our last stop goes down to the Peach State with an event that happened actually fairly recently in DragonCon, one of the largest conventions in the world with one of the most well-known small bot live events in the USA, and Robot Battles. In one of the arguable birthplaces of robot combat, Robot Battles has provided one of the most unique ways to experience robot fights, and in the process has developed some superstars of the sport such as Mike Jeffries with Near Chaos Robotics, and Charles Guan with Equal Zero Designs. The smaller classes, the 1 pound and 3 pound groups, are in a traditional arena, while of course the 12 pound and 30 pound sportsman classes are contested in a very unique sumo battleground. So let's work our way from the bottom to the top, finishing off with our matches in that battleground. In the ant weight class, third place would go to Slip to Pant, second place would go to Deku, and first place would go to Outlier, a brand new control bot from Near Chaos Robotics from Georgia. You better get used to hearing about this team because no place owns Robot Battles and DragonCon the same way Mike Jeffries and Near Chaos Robotics seems to. In the beater weight class, third place would go to Sharpie, a two-wheel drive traditional beater drum, which destroyed the awesome Sir Bug in this third place playoff. Really wish Sir Bug won that. Second place would go to Old Faithful, another two-wheel drive beater bot. And the first place honor would go to High Stakes, the newest Team Near Chaos Robotics machine, debuting at this event with a huge style design, who turns out to be a little bit of a drum bot killer, taking out third place and second place. It went undefeated at its debut show, really proved to everyone that, Near Chaos Robotics, like I mentioned, they're the real deal. I would love to see High Stakes and its very well branded design at an NHL event in the future. But let's go on to the Sumo Arena. Such a weird, wacky crowd. I love this competition. In the hobbyweight class, really a competition full of wedge bots. In third place, it went to Scoop It, only after Testbot, who dominated the fight, drove off of the arena on accident. Second place would go to Eccentricity, Mike Jeffries' older robot. This robot has been competing for, I want to say, over a decade, showing that Mike Jeffries himself can still do it with Near Chaos Robotics. And first place, the only robot to beat Eccentricity, would be Tetanus Shot, a four-wheel drive spike bot driven by Jason Brown, leading us to an all-team bombshell finals between Mike Jeffries and Jason Brown. And then finally, in the sportsman featherweight division, tied for third, Caffeinated Toddler and Pinocchio. Caffeinated Toddler was a breaker box style bot I bet could do it fantastically in full combat with that big time plow it has. While Pinocchio is definitely more of the robot battles tradition of crazy designs. It had an Anteater-esque de-icer, which would probably only do good at this event. Still a very fun robot nonetheless. Second place was Sabretooth, a longtime robot to compete at DragonCon with a classic four-wheel drive lifting design. And then first place, things never change at DragonCon it seems, Styx, undefeated, proving that the Nyx family of robots, the family of robots that originally inspired Bombshell, still run the roost in a 30-pound class at DragonCon. Near Chaos Robotics, almost with a clean sweep of the Georgia event. They took first place in the Antweight class with Outlier. They took first place in the Beaterweight class with High Stakes. They took first place in the Featherweight class with Styx. And almost in a 2-out-of-3 battle on Game 3, got second with Eccentricity, an older robot. Very, very impressive from Near Chaos Robotics. But shoutouts, honestly, to all the robots at this event, especially in the 30-pound class. Anarachnophobia was one of the most wonderful walking robots I've seen all year. It was an absolute treat to see. The team behind Flibbity Gibbet was a treat to watch compete. It's so fun to see a team so enthused by every win and even loss. And we even had Dandelion's Revenge turn up again, who in itself has become a cult legend at Robot Battles events. I've been watching the old Uber Clocker. I've been watching the old Nyx fight that robot for what feels like over a decade now, and now we have a whole new generation of robots fighting it. Just warms my heart. But real quickly, before we talk about the Robot Combat Hall of Fame next, going over some of my favorite robots from these 4 competitions. I do, of course, want to give a shout out to Fracas competing in the UK, bringing the Americans a big-time victory on Robo Nerd Weekend. They were able to really take advantage of the pit, this control bot style arena, and take advantage of the pit, take advantage of the arena zones, really show what it can do. It was a great warm-up, going to have to likely fight some more 30-pound British robots in the NHRL finals later on. That was nice to see. Also, shouts to Pizza Time. Such a fun-looking robot. So close but so far away in the UK, only placing 4th. In Brazil, talking about RoboCore, I don't know if AGVS is going to be competing at NHRL September. I would like to think so because it's their last chance to qualify. But we do know Uriah is going to be there. We brought it up before the last time we talked about NHRL on Robot Combat Tonight. We don't know what classes Uriah is going to enter or how many robots they're going to bring, but it's going to be pretty insane. I'm sure at least 2 Uriah robots are going to make it into the NHRL finals, especially now that they're riding the hot momentum of 2 first-place finishes at RoboCore. Very exciting there. Want to give one more shout out again to the Canadian Beetleweights for sweeping the top 3 at Kilobots after struggling for 3 straight years to keep the Americans off the podium. That was very nice. And part of that, of course, was because of Team Jester's own exercise restraint. Shout out to Mediator again. Very impressive with his robot. And then at Robot Battles, I just talked about it. Near Chaos Robotics, just impressive. I mean, obviously, we've seen some teams like G3 Robotics, Team Shock, Team Eruption in the UK be dominant. And I mean dominant. But that's a whole new level of dominance right there, what we saw from Near Chaos in their own home state of Georgia. So shouts to all those robots. Of all of them, my MVP will probably have to be Anarachnophobia and Dead Alliance Revenge. 2 very different robots that are both equally as fun. But now, Robot Combat Hall of Fame time. The reaction to the results that we've been given on the 20th are long overdue. I mean, we made an entire Robot Combat Tonight episode pretty much dedicated to this Robot Combat Hall of Fame ballot. But like I mentioned, on August 20th, the ballots closed and we got crowned our Hall of Famer and some honorable mentions with only 1 robot making the class this year. And no, it's not this robot. It's not any of these robots. It's a good robot, don't get it twisted, but man, huge? Fucking huge? Now look, I love Huge. I always put over Jonathan Schultz, someone I've seen chat online for well over a decade, almost 2 decades. But we didn't even have Huge on our own considered robot list. In fact, we almost had it and then took it off last minute because I decided it wasn't realistic enough of a pick for this year. But that being said, despite Sawblaze being the highest vote getter on the ballot, Huge, who received an honorable mention all the way back in 2019, had done enough to qualify for a main Hall of Fame selection, joining the greats like Vlad the Impaler, Chaos 2, Biohazard, Voltronic. One robot that isn't there? Firestorm, who gets gypped again. You motherfuckers with your recency bias wear me out. I love all of you Robot Combat fans, but there's a lot of young fans in the sport, and a Hall of Fame should mean robots that have been around for a decade plus or robots that have been retired already. The highest vote getters in this whole thing were the 2 most recently successful robots at both Battlebots and NHRL. It just frustrates me, to be honest. I mean, this robot, Firestorm, it has been out of the game for 2 decades, but still has a lasting impact on fans today, is an inspiration to current designs, and it was a top 10 robot easily in the sport during its time of activity, maybe even top 5. Looks like we're going to be waiting just a little bit longer to see this machine take its deserved spot in the Robot Combat Hall of Fame. The robots joining Huge, though, as honorable mentions, include my 3rd-pound pick, Lynx, Mantine's 3-pound pick, Droopy, Team Waiachi's game-changing flipper, Hydra, and, of course, both of Jameson Go's Hammer Saws, Megatron, our recent NHRL champion, and our defending Battlebots champion, Sawblaze. So congratulations to Huge. Even though I disagree with the call, we've seen this robot fight in literally almost every combat weight class in the sport. It's easily earned its flowers and totally changed the meta in the process. We've seen Huge go from, it's like Gabriel with a spinner, to Gabriel and Huge essentially designing this whole new side class of robots, big wheeled bots, other machines like, WTF bot, Captain Jack Spinner, Droopy, Wumbo, so many designs. Maybe they do deserve it. I'm not sure. The honorable mentions, meanwhile, now can gear up for a potential full induction during the next vote. I want to say in 2026. Not too certain, to be honest. But here are my thoughts overall on the whole thing before we move up to some Battlebots Proving Grounds. Like I mentioned, congratulations to Huge. It had a deserving year. I don't know if it's a deserving bot. I feel like it needs a few more miles under its belt. But I can honestly say the same thing about Sawblaze. I can say the same thing about Lynx and Droopy. And those are all robots we did discuss on our Robot Combat Tonight episode. The ones that really bug me are the old bots. Like I mentioned, this is like if you have an MLB Hall of Fame induction next year and we induct Julio Rodriguez, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and I don't know, Ronald Acuna Jr. They're the 4 best players in baseball right now, and they're all probably going to be Hall of Famers down the line, but just because you're good right now doesn't make you in the Hall of Fame. That's not what Hall of Fame means, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just a boomer who's used to like WWE Hall of Fame and MLB Hall of Fame and NFL's Ring of Honor and what have you, but it really should be for the older robots like Vlad the Impaler, like Dissector, like Toro, like Overkill, like Biohazard, like Firestorm. Firestorm, multiple Robot Wars Grand Finals, Commonwealth Championship, flipped over Mr. Psycho, championships at Techno Games, influence felt to this day. Alex Mordew still represents the team, and here we are. We're going to have to fight for another year of Firestorm. It breaks my heart. I want to give a shout out to the UK voters, though, because apparently they did vote for Firestorm. Second highest voted robot in their country outside of Sawblaze. Mark Jorger did say himself that there was a huge influx of people voting for NHRL robots this year, and maybe that bias kind of affected things a little bit. I'm not sure. Who am I to judge? Who am I to criticize? But that is really how it felt. In terms of the other robots, Hydra was really the one to talk about here because we already talked about Sawblaze, Droopy, and Lynx. Hydra is a very revolutionary design. It's been incredibly successful. It's part of that Team Waiachi legacy that we all love, especially us old heads. And it's an innovative design. It's the first ever hydraulic flipper, and it's a damn good one at that. Arguably the best flipper in the world right now, only to be rivaled by some designs like, Lucky, Eruption, Apollo, Tectonic. There's a few out there, but you want some pure raw robot flipping power, you got to look at Hydra. Maybe one more, maybe like 3, 4, 5 more years, though, for them, in my opinion. I don't think they're ready to go in yet. It feels like they just started, doesn't it? 2019 wasn't that long ago. COVID might have made it feel that long ago, but it is what it is. Still no Warhead or T-minus either. Another pair of 2003 honorable mentions that have yet to move up. All very disappointing, but, I guess that's just how it's going to be with these fans and recency bias. It's very frustrating, but still, nonetheless, shouts to Jonathan Schultz and the rest of the Huge team. They are deserving to get Huge into the Hall of Fame. It is a Hall of Fame level robot, and a championship level contender we'll hopefully see sooner rather than later at Battlebots 2024. But speaking of Battlebots 2024, it's time for the segment we all know and love here, the Proving Grounds Update. We're recording this on the big weekend of the Twins versus Fireball and Jackpot versus Bloodsport going down. In fact, since this is being recorded live on our Discord server on a Sunday, with the minimal non-supporter news we have from day one, we can report here that Fireball would be victorious in its first battle against the Twins, while Jackpot apparently went through some serious turbulence in anticipation for its first fight of the weekend. So expect details on that and even more info on these Proving Grounds showdowns during our next Robot Combat Tonight episode, hopefully sooner rather than later before Battlebots Champions cycles in. This time we only have one big one to catch you up on here, and it's huge. Not literally huge, not Robot Combat Hall of Fame huge, but you know what I mean here. I know we've said some robots in the past are impressive. Mudhole Bullfrog, Pinch Point, Disarray, even Travis T. They all impressed inside the battle box, but all of those robots pale in comparison to what both Roundhouse and Orbitron brought to the arena on August 26th and 27th. But now we gave you all the lowdown on our August Proving Grounds preview, but let's quickly summarize these two robots here. Roundhouse comes from Indiana's RoboGym Robotics, a team who recently retired two-time Battlebots competitor Deadlift to bring in Roundhouse, a 250-pound version of the team's recent championship-winning 30-pounder. Orbitron, meanwhile, comes from the University of Waterloo and is sponsored by Warframe, which is super cool. The robot itself, though, is a counter-revolution style dual spinner with the most in-depth use of AI seen in the heavyweight division to date. 8 cameras, a whole ass laptop. This team was very serious. And on the 26th, it took Roundhouse a moment to get going, but ultimately the slow and steady start ended up winning the race for RoboGym. Orbitron started off strong, using movement which strongly resembled the AI movement we saw in its application video to land some vicious strikes to Roundhouse early on. Roundhouse, though, in just one hit would show much more durability than Orbitron did, as outside some ablative top armor coming off of Roundhouse early on, the robot ran fine and managed a comeback victory when Orbitron suffered what was reportedly a USB communication error mid-match, causing an issue which stunted Orbitron, allowing Roundhouse 2 vicious strikes to knock out Orbitron's left side for a victory in 1 minute and 31 seconds. Very frustrating, but they moved forward on here to the 27th, where RoboGym would plaster the damage of Blade of Armor right back on the Roundhouse's top and brought it back with minimal changes for fight number 2, while Orbitron, meanwhile, presumably solved the USB communication issues it had during day 1. Both of these teams were confident for the second fight of the weekend, but the result ultimately ended up all the same. This time things started off all Roundhouse with 2 hard strikes to Orbitron's sides early on this time, and the hits just kept on coming and just kept on coming Smash Mouth style after that. Orbitron did manage some offense, but after the opening combo, its drive was crippled for the fight's remainder, which allowed Roundhouse to really just tee off on the Canadian Orbitron, even nearly flipping it over at one point. This fight would be another Roundhouse KO in just only 53 seconds this time, with Orbitron leaving in a fiery heap. We don't really get to see good fire at Battlebots Proving Grounds, but we did with this one. This was definitely spicy. Get out the marshmallows for it. Overall, though, easily the best weekend in Proving Grounds' half-a-year history. Both of these robots showed TV quality potential in terms of preparedness and matchup quality. We had good driving, fantastic tech, vicious weaponries, and of course, fire. Gotta love fire. Very impressed with Roundhouse. Comparing it to Deadlift is night and day. It easily makes the 50 right now, in my opinion. And as for Orbitron, the AI is fantastic. It certainly looked a lot more like an RA2 AI than a Roomba AI. And while impressed versus an unprepared Roundhouse in Fight 1, RoboGym really seemed to pick up on the fact that this system really left its size exposed come Fight 2, which led to the quick result, I think. I still believe they should be on TV, at the very least as an alternate, but we're just going to have to see how things play out. I mean, it really is just the best way you can describe the way that Orbitron drove, especially in that first fight. I'm not sure if they use it the second fight. I've heard conflicting reports, but definitely for fight number 1. I mean, the way it just, every time it lost sight of a robot, it felt like it would reset, go into the corner, line itself up, and then go back into the charge. The application video brought up how it would try to predict robots' movements. You can kind of see it with how it swerved outwards and then came inwards on the attack. It was just so beautifully orchestrated. The robot looked great. It has the sponsors to back it up. Even though it went 0-2, sits at number negative 16 points on the TCC overall rankings, it definitely does not deserve that ranking. And won't have it long since we reset the rankings at the end of December. Roundhouse, though, meanwhile, RoboGym just has to be feeling good. We talked all about Robo Brawl in Champaign, Illinois on TCC's channel during one of our early breakdown videos, and Roundhouse is living up to the hype. It looks the part. It's fantastic. The weapon is vicious and massive. That weapon is massive. I know some fans were worried about it breaking. It's so big, but we didn't see that thing scuff up at all. It didn't even bend. Didn't even bend like we saw Manta do to Triton a few weeks back. Just straight up good performance, honestly, by both these teams. Super happy with how it played out. And honestly, from what we've seen of Twins and Fireball in the minimal time, looks like they're looking pretty good as well. Things are picking up at Battlebots Proving Ground. Makes me so excited, especially with the fights coming up. You got robots like Fireball, the Twins, Switchback, who recently joined the TCC Discord. Thank you guys. Love you all. You know, Russ Robotics with Hellfire and Swamp Thing. Taco Tuesday, who's getting prepared for a big weekend against Disarray, a robot that I mentioned a few moments ago. I'm really looking forward to see how this all plays out and how the field of 50 ends up playing up at Battlebots 2024. We're getting so close. It looks like it's going to be either January or March that event is going to be going down. But finally, like I said, this is going to be a pretty brisk episode of Robot Combat tonight. Most of our big topics have been covered in standalone videos. Let's talk about Russia's Battle of Robots. In a recent TCC news video, we spilled the beans on Battle of Robots, Russia's first heavyweight major ever, onto the world of robot combat fans all over the US and UK. And just as soon as we published that video, developments quickly went outdated with more news here that the first of two qualifier groups will have their event on the 16th of September in Moscow, Russia, at what looks to be a 3 a.m. Central Time for our kickoff, I would have to guess. I don't know Moscow time zones. I barely know American time zones. But I did some Google translations, and I think that's where we're sitting at. I will correct it if I'm wrong. But yes, we have 24 robots from 4 different countries partaking in Group A, with 6 advancing to the semifinals taking place in November. And on the 8th of September, during a large conference, these 24 robots would be revealed to the public for the very first time. The Combot Collective will be posting an infographic showcasing the entire Group A field on our social media, either on the day before or after this RCT episode drops on YouTube. But from what we've seen, it looks like Group A is going to feature some veterans like Adam, the drum bot, Bucinator, the flipper, 38th, Weber, and Volge, a brand new X-Bot from the Weber team. So Weber, Team Big Brother, are going to be running 2 robots in this Group A field. But we also have some aforementioned internationals in this group as well, such as friend of TCC, Mercis Robotic with Lonely Wolf, the first robot we talked about out of all of these 24 machines on our social media. Kazakhstan's Huntsman, a very old Brit flipper from Kazakhstan, is going to be there. And we even have the strong nation of India with War Machine and Sakel, 2 drum bots, the second of which was originally intended for RoboGames this year. But of course, that's just some veterans. We also have plenty of promising first-time robots in this field as well, such as Gene, the Gnome Alligator, Putavoy 23, and Unrevealed's very much capturing TCC's attention. And it is worth noting that some robots here, such as Solarbot, Destructor, Energy, Rainbow from Battlebots, Matanga, and even that bizarre barrel-looking machine we posted on our social media, they all still haven't been confirmed despite the fact we know they're in the competition. So it's best to assume that these robots are going to be in October's Group B pool facing one another, along with some other robots from reportedly Iran and Vietnam as well. That is going to be Vietnam's first ever heavyweight in the sport's history. I'm so excited to see what that machine looks like. It's going to be an exciting event with some exciting robots, and the Combot Collective is going to do their best to cover it in detail for the sake of international expansion of the heavyweight class. Stay tuned for a video showcasing 5 to 8 of these robots in detail before the 16th. And maybe even an announcement on social media soon about a live stream during the event, trying to get some more US and UK fans into a competition, which it isn't easy to access if you don't know the websites, the URLs, what you're looking for. But I really am trying to push for Battle of Robots as a, maybe the new King of Bots, as a big third major competition happening in the happening in the world alongside Extreme Robots and BattleBots, Try to re-establish that big 3 that we had with BattleBots, Robot Wars, and King of Bots for a few years there. I would certainly love to see it, but we'll have to see how it goes. I'm super excited about this field of 24 robots, though. We have a vertical spinner from a Russian racing team. That robot I mentioned, Putavoy 33 or 23 or whatever the name was, it looks a lot like Cobalt, but it has its own energy to it. It has its own colors. And I think it has a chance to really be a top-notch level machine, maybe even a Battlebots quality machine. Feel the same way about Gene and Owner of Fields, to be honest. And really excited to see what India can do here. Adam 94, which has been a lot of fans' exposure to Indian robot combat, wasn't the best example, I gotta say. War Machine and Sakel, especially Sakel, a robot like I mentioned, originally built for RoboGames. These are going to be some proper examples of what this country can do for the first time since we've seen, Blanca bots or what have you compete on Clash bots and King of bots. And, you know, of course, the veterans. You can't get over the veterans. Adam has had such a glow up since we last saw it fight a bit for Robotop. 38th used to be called 72nd. It looks a lot stronger than we've seen it in the past. Weber's rocking a new paint job. Volge is going to be the first ever new robot that Team Weber has built since 2019, so that's going to be quite intriguing. I'm just super excited for this event. I could gush on it for a whole nother Robot Combat Tonight episode, but I'll hold you off here as we now are approaching 50 minutes on our episode. This has been the Combot Collective, and we've covered all of our news topics pretty briskly here. We talked about Battlebots Champions. We made our predictions. Sawblaze to win it all. We talked about all sorts of live events and caught you up on what's been happening in the world of the sport, in the U.S., in the U.K., in Canada, even in Brazil. It's a shame we didn't get to talk about Germany. We talked about the Robot Combat Hall of Fame. Congratulated Huge, even though I'm not too happy about the result itself. I feel like Firestorm should have gone in. And then we talked about Battlebots Proving Ground, how Roundhouse and Orbitron should be in there, should be in the main field of 50, but we'll have to see. And then finally, a big update about Battle of Robots in Russia that I'm just so excited for. On the 16th, less than a week away, we're going to get all these robots on the TCC rankings, and that is going to make for one juicy TCC ranking update here in the next couple of weeks. TCC rankings are going to go through a lot, to be honest, here over the next month or two with Battlebots Champions coming up as well. I'm so excited, but let's go ahead and wrap us up here on Robot Combat Tonight. I'm your host, as always, here at the Combot Collective, Sterling Brown, a.k.a. Sterling TXTG on Instagram, and Robot Combat Tonight is recorded live almost every week, but not as often in Battlebots off-season times, on our Discord server, where we do it on our live stage platform, so you can get all the Robot Combat news, not 3 days after it happens, but fresh on the spot. I mean, this episode was a little bit of a catch-up episode, but I digress. Please join the Discord server if you want to catch these RCT episodes live. We have numerous Robot Combat fans there. We have numerous Robot Combat creators there. We have numerous Robot Combat builders there. And we're trying to make it a more active hub for fans of the sport to feel safe and talk about things they like to talk about. We also have, of course, our Instagram and Facebook page. We post all sorts of infographics, video updates, stat sheets on those pages, news updates. And we're going to be posting the full field of 24 for Group A of Battle of the Robots on our social media pages within the next few days. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, you're right here on YouTube watching this if you're not watching it live. If you like what you're seeing here on Robot Combat Tonight, or during our news videos, or during our live streams, or during our Battlebots event rundowns, subscribe to the channel, like the channel, leave a comment, give us your thoughts on all we talked about here on Robot Combat Tonight today. Give us your thoughts on Robot Combat Hall of Fame, Battle of Robots Proving Grounds, and give us a little bit of constructive criticism, because we want to make RCT better every single week. But that's going to wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for watching this rather brisk episode of Robot Combat Tonight. Thank you all for your ongoing support. It has been another very successful month in terms of gathering subscribers to the TCC channel. Makes me happy as we are now well on the road to 600 subscribers, I want to say it's 600, yeah. Until then, I already said my name. I'm your host, Sterling Brown. We covered the world of Robot Combat. You are all caught up. Let's get hyped up for Battle of Robots. Let's get hyped up for Proving Grounds. Let's get hyped up for Battlebots Champions. Who's going to bring home the Golden Bolt? I think it's going to be this spot. But me and Sawblaze, we'll see you next time for more TCC.
This was the Combot Collective. Find us on Instagram and Discord.